that Saudi Arabia is the world's third largest defense spender. We're talking over $75 billion annually poured into its military budget. It's a staggering figure.
Truly massive. Puts them right up there with the global heavyweights.
But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit counterintuitive. Until quite recently, only about 2%, maybe even less, of that huge spend was actually localized, spent inside Saudi Arabia.
Right. Almost all of it was going to foreign suppliers.
Yeah.
Billions flowing out.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a deep dive into Saudi Arabia's incredibly ambitious plan, part of their Vision 2030. They want to completely transform their defense industry.
The target is huge. They're aiming to localize more than 50% of defense buying by 2030. That's a monumental leap from 2%.
It really is. And this isn't just about, buying fewer tanks from abroad. It's a major strategic pivot. They want to cut down that reliance on others, boost their own national security autonomy, and importantly, use this to drive wider industrial growth.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case study. You've got a nation historically known for, well, oil exports and importing almost all its defense kit.
Right.
Now trying to become a serious player in actually making that kit. And that raises a big question, one that's really relevant for you listening. How are they actually trying to pull off this massive shift?
What are the steps?
What are the steps? What does it mean for global defense, for geopolitics, and for, how we understand economic change? So our mission today is to explore all that. We'll look at the landscape, the opportunities, the big challenges they face.
And the key players making it happen or trying to.
Exactly. Connecting the dots for you.
Okay, so let's start with that baseline again, just to really cement the scale. Over $75 billion a year on defense, and historically over 98% sourced from outside.
Just imagine that dependency. Year after year, huge amounts of capital leaving the country.
But more than just the money, it's the strategic vulnerability, isn't it? If you rely almost completely on others for your defense, well, you're kind of beholden to their politics, their decisions.
Absolutely. Foreign policy shifts, supply chain issues. It puts you in a precarious spot, especially in a region like the Middle East.
So Vision 2030 comes along and says, okay, we need over 50% localization by 2030. What does that really mean for them beyond just having Saudi-made gear?
Well, it's about industrial independence, fundamentally. It goes way beyond just warfare. It's about weaving together national security with economic diversification. Building that security capability internally, not just buying it off the shelf.
Building it, not just buying it. I like that.
Yeah. And you don't make a shift like that just by wishing it. You need institutions. You need structure.
Right. You need a plan and people to execute it.
Precisely. It's not just throwing money at the problem, it's building an entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
And our sources really point to two key organizations, both set up in 2017, that are central to this whole effort.
Okay, who are they?
First up, you have JMI. That's the General Authority for Military Industries. Think of JMI as the architect, the regulator.
The rule maker.
Kind of, yeah. They develop the big picture industrial strategy. They hand out the operating licenses to Saudi companies and international ones setting up shop there. And crucially, they're responsible for making sure technology transfer actually happens.
How do they enforce that? That sounds tricky.
Through something called offsets. Basically, if a big foreign company wins a huge defense contract, GMI mandates that they have to reinvest a chunk of that contract's value back into the Saudi economy.
Ah, so building local factories, training Saudi workers, maybe some R&D.
Exactly that sort of thing. Plus, GMI sets and enforces localization benchmarks. Companies have to prove they're hitting targets for local content, Saudi jobs, and so on.
Have they made much headway? I mean, it's only been since 2017.
Well, the numbers are pretty impressive, actually. By 2023, GMI had already licensed over 300 companies, local and international. They'd registered over 270 new defense products made, or partially made locally, and launched over 25 big strategic programs. So yeah, there's definitely momentum.
Okay, 300 companies, 270 products. That's not insignificant. So GMI sets the rules and pushes the strategy. Who's actually, building the stuff?
That's where the second entity comes in, SAMI, which stands for Saudi Arabian Military Industries.
SAMI, got it.
Also set up in 2017, and it's fully owned by the PIF, the Public Investment Fund. SAMI is the operational arm. If GMI is the brain, SAMI is kind of the muscle.
The doer?
The doer, exactly. They're active across all the main areas, aerospace, land systems like vehicles, naval stuff, weapons, missiles, electronics, and also Maintenance, repair, and overhaul, MRO. That's a huge piece.
MRO is critical for keeping things running.
Absolutely. And SAMI hasn't just started from scratch. They've made some big acquisitions to jumpstart their capabilities. They bought advanced electronics company, AEC.
Oh, I've heard of AEC. They're a pretty established player in electronics and avionics in the region.
Right. Huge boost for SAMI there. They also acquired aircraft accessories and components company, AACC, that strengthens their hand in aircraft maintenance and parts manufacturing.
So they're buying existing expertise to speed things up. Smart.
It is. It shows they're serious about moving from just planning to actually having real operational capacity. These two, GMI and SAMI, they're meant to be the backbone of this whole new defense ecosystem.
Okay, so it's a clear strategy. GMI regulates and enables, SAMI builds and operates, and you said there's actual production happening now.
Oh yeah, it's beyond just planning documents.
Like what? What are they making?
Well, for instance, local production of the Tuareg armored vehicle, that's happening.
Yeah.
And they're not just assembling kits, there's real local manufacturing involved.
Okay.
They're also getting deep into integrating C4ISR systems. That's command control communications, computers, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Basically the digital nervous system for the military.
That sounds complex. Needs serious tech know-how.
It does. And here's something really interesting our sources flagged. A company called Intrae Defense Technologies is developing ITAR-free UAVs drones.
ITAR-free. Why is that significant?
Well, ITAR stands for the U.S. International Traffic in Arms Regulations. It governs the export and use of sensitive American defense tech. If something is ITAR restricted, you need U.S. approval for, well, pretty much everything you do with it, especially selling it or using it in certain ways.
So if Saudi Arabia makes its own drones without those restricted U.S. parts.
Exactly. They gain massive autonomy. They can decide where and how to use these drones, or potentially even export them, without needing a green light from Washington. That's a big deal strategically.
That really changes the game for them, gives them more independent leverage in the region.
Definitely. Now, this isn't all happening in a vacuum, of course. They're not trying to invent everything themselves from scratch. Strategic partnerships are key.
Right, they're working with the big international defense companies.
Absolutely. Collaborations are crucial. Think Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon from the U.S., Naval Group from France, Leonardo from Italy, even partnerships with Turkish firms like Baykar, who are, big in the drone space.
And how do they make sure these partnerships actually help localization, not just sell more foreign equipment?
That goes back to GATE-MI and the Industrial Participation Program, the IPP. It's basically baked into the contracts.
The offset thing you mentioned.
Precisely. Win a big contract, you have to invest back locally. Local manufacturing, training Saudi engineers, setting up R&D centers, transferring technology. It forces the foreign OEMs to become active partners in building up the Saudi defense industry.
So procurements become development tools, not just purchases.
That's the idea. And it's not just about traditional defense hardware either. Our sources emphasize how they're linking this to growth in dual-use tech sectors.
Dual use, meaning civilian applications, too.
Exactly. Think advanced cybersecurity, AI, sensors, satellite tech, electronic warfare. These have obvious military uses, but also huge civilian potential.
So an AI breakthrough for, say, logistics could also help a battle management system.
Precisely. Or satellite tech for military comms also helps civilian broadband or weather forecasting. It creates this synergy, linking defense growth with broader national innovation goals. Makes the whole tech ecosystem stronger.
That sounds like a really integrated, holistic approach, looking beyond just the military side, so thinking about growth. Beyond just meeting their own needs, where are the big opportunities here? Are they looking outwards?
Yeah, absolutely. The domestic push is step one, but the potential goes further. First, as we mentioned, that IPP is really driving foreign direct investment, FDI, and joint ventures. International companies are setting up shop, bringing money, tech, and expertise across lots of different areas, electronics, MRO, components.
So the incentives are working.
It seems so. But then there's market expansion. The goal isn't just self-sufficiency, it's potentially becoming an exporter.
Really? Exporting Saudi-made defense gear?
That's the ambition, especially to regional markets. Think Gulf Cooperation Council neighbors, maybe North Africa, parts of South Asia. For things like those ITAR-free UAVs, armored vehicles, maybe ammunition. Things where they could be cost competitive or offer specific regional advantages.
And the local security situation probably drives demand too.
For sure. The Red Sea, the Gulf waters, border security, these create a constant need for naval systems, surveillance tech, things Saudi firms could specialize in.
Okay, and within technology, where's the real cutting edge for them? Are they just copying existing stuff or aiming higher?
The real high growth potential seems to be in developing their own indigenous capabilities in those emerging tech areas we talked about. UAVs, definitely. Those C4ISR systems, cybersecurity platforms, and especially AI-driven systems for things like battle management.
Stuff with that dual use potential?
Exactly. These aren't just military tools. They overlap heavily with civilian tech, which means bigger markets, more sustainability, and real export potential down the line. It's not just about catching up. It's about trying to lead in specific niches.
And underpinning all of this, you need the people, right?
Absolutely critical. And that's the final big opportunity area,
Mm.
workforce development. GMI has this defense sector human capital strategy. It's a huge push.
Train Saudis.
Tens of thousands of high-skilled jobs for Saudi nationals, engineers, technicians, R&D specialists. The goal is to build that domestic talent base, reduce reliance on expats, and make the whole industry sustainable long-term. Investing in people is probably the most vital piece of the puzzle.
Okay, those opportunities sound significant. A path towards being a real player. But let's be realistic, transformations like this are never straightforward. What are the big roadblocks, the challenges they still need to overcome?
Yeah, it's definitely not all smooth sailing. Our sources highlight some pretty significant hurdles. One of the biggest is still a shortage of deep technical expertise and skilled labor within the kingdom.
Despite the training efforts.
Despite the efforts, yeah, there's still a gap, especially for really specialized roles, systems integrators, R&D scientists, particularly in complex fields like electronic warfare, advanced missile tech, cyber defense. Building that critical mass of local talent takes time.
Okay, the people part is tough. What else?
Supply chains,
Oh.
they're still fragmented. Even if you assemble something locally, you might heavily depend on imported high-spec components.
Like specialized sensors or microchip?
Exactly. Precision sensors, microelectronics, propulsion systems for missiles or drones. Without a strong domestic capability to make these critical subsystems, you don't have full control over production, and it makes scaling up difficult. True independence is harder to achieve.
That makes sense. You need the whole chain. And then there's technology transfer itself. You said the IPP mandates it, but is it always easy to get the really sensitive stuff?
And that's another major constraint. Despite the partnerships, the most sensitive technologies think missile guidance, the secret sauce, and AI for military use, advanced cryptography. These are often heavily guarded by the countries that develop them.
Because of arms control rules and things like ITAR?
Precisely. International regimes like the MTCR, Missile Technology Control Regime, and national rules like ITAR put real limits on transferring the most critical know-how. This inevitably slows down localization efforts in the areas where they probably want it most.
So political and regulatory hurdles from outside. What about internally? Is it all streamlined?
Well, potentially not always. You've got multiple big players involved: GAMI, SAMI, the Ministry of Defense, the PIF Investment Fund, other agencies, managing all these stakeholders, avoiding overlapping mandates, cutting through bureaucracy. That can sometimes slow things down.
Coordination challenge happens in any big system.
It does. They're working on streamlining it, but it remains an ongoing task to keep everything moving smoothly and quickly.
And finally, looking outwards again. If they do manage to build competitive products, they face a tough market, right?
Very tough. Global competition in defense exports is fierce. You've got countries like Turkey, South Korea, even the UAE, who've maybe matured their own defense industries faster in some areas and are already established exporters in key regions like Africa and Asia.
So Saudi Arabia needs to build not just products, but a brand.
Exactly. They need to establish credibility for quality and reliability, get international certifications for things like interoperability with other forces, and navigate complex export rules. It's a crowded field.
Okay, so recapping here. This push for a localized defense industry in Saudi Arabia, it's clearly way past just being an idea on paper.
Oh, definitely. Our sources show it's now a core national security goal, a big driver for their economic diversification plans, and really a symbol of their push for more strategic independence.
The institutions are there, GMI setting rules, SAMI building things, partnerships are active.
Right, the foundations are laid. But as we just discussed, those structural challenges are real. Integrating the supply chain, building up that specialized workforce, navigating tech transfer limits, and coordinating everything. These are ongoing tests.
So, thinking about the future, what should someone watching this space, what should you be looking for? How do they solidify this progress and tackle those hurdles?
Well, our sources suggest a few key levers. They'll likely need to really double down on joint R&D, maybe set up more defense tech incubators to spur genuinely local innovation.
Grow their own ideas, not just adapt others.
Exactly. and massively scale up that technical education and vocational training, especially focusing on those future skills, AI, electronics, systems integration. Closing that talent gap is non-negotiable.
And on the market side,
Pursuing those interoperability certifications is key, making sure Saudi equipment can easily work alongside systems used by allies and potential customers, and fostering more regional defense cooperation could also help create markets.
right. So it really feels like the success or failure of this whole strategy is going to significantly redefine Saudi Arabia's role, not just a big spender anymore.
But potentially a builder, maybe even an exporter, of military capability in the region. And remember, this isn't just about traditional weapons.
It's broader, right?
Definitely.
Cybersecurity, space tech, AI.
Exactly. It's about building a whole national capability framework. So the really provocative thought for you, the listener, is how will this fundamental shift, if they pull it off, truly reshape stability in the Middle East and maybe even global power dynamics? And what other opportunities, or perhaps unforeseen challenges, might pop up from such a deep and rapid change in a major player's entire industrial identity?
Definitely something to keep a close eye on. A lot is riding on this transformation.